Today we have a shocking video of Tommy Robinson accusing and exposing Prince and now King Charles for loving Islam and possibly Sharia law. Check it out here.
How did the religion of Islam grow so much in UK? By the way, what do you know about Prince Charles and his relationship with Muslims? Because he took an interest and he wanted to study them, and he's been very respectful about it. But there was a high level of interest into him. What is his relationship with Muslims?
He loves it. He loves Islam.
Why is that?
So who knows? Who knows, mate? Maybe he is a Muslim. Who knows? He comes out and makes comments like there's great respect for Sharia. Sharia would subjugate every single one of us, Charles. But to be honest, he's not my king. Yeah, and I think most people feel that way. And he's not just on Islam, on the whole World Economic Forum, the whole global climate change, just everything he's been part of and supported. Everything. And he's meant to be non-political. Yeah? The Queen was non-political. Didn't make any of these comments. Charles, total opposite. So, and I think it should have skipped Charles and gone straight to Prince William and Kate, because the support for the monarchy is probably at the lowest ever, I'm guessing. People have had enough. And he is meant to be our king, and his people, which is us, our daughters are being raped from one end of this country to the other, and they're continually being put in danger. And he said nothing. He speaks up for the great contributions Muslims have done. Like, if there was no Islam in the UK, we wouldn't even be having these discussions on immigration, because immigration hasn't caused the problem. It's Islamic immigration that's destroying this nation.
Yeah, I'm looking at this with the comments he made, Rob. There is multiple comments he's made, views on Sharia law. He made it back in the days, as well as some of the ones that's been recent, if I'm not mistaken. But he's constantly seems to be supporting it. And by the way, if he was one, let's just say he is Muslim, of course, now it would make sense that these types of things are happening. You know, it would show that there is support for it. No one's fighting back. But there is no documentation that he is a Muslim himself. There's just a lot of stories written about it.
He was also, what was he given? He was handed was it £1 million cash? They had to justify. Google that story from Qatar, I believe. But he was given £1 million cash, like a bag of cash. And yeah, it's hard to know, but he is part of the same elite, yeah, which has the destruction of every one of our countries, including his own. They are flooding this country. No one can look at Great Britain and say it's gone in the right direction. No one. Not everyone from around the world is now laughing at Great Britain. They're laughing at it. Where is that?
Yeah, it says right here, it was alleged that between 2011 and 2015, Prince Charles is reported to have accepted £3 million, 2.6 million in cash from Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim bin Jabbar Al Thani, a former prime minister of Qatar. The cash was allegedly given in physical form, suitcase, a hold-all. What is that, in Phantom Mason carrier bag? These payments were then deposited into the Prince of Wales Charitable Fund. The office is denying any wrongdoing.
What's that sound like? A big bag of cash. Sounds legit, doesn't it? Yeah, but that's just the one that we know about. Like, what else? Because Qatar is the problem. Yeah, Qatar is the big problem. Now, Qatar has funded nearly £1 billion in Islamization of Europe. Every French ghetto, Qatar are behind. Yeah, including separating and segregating and polluting the minds of those Muslim communities. Qatar are behind. Qatar are behind the Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar are in bed with all of them. Qatar are in bed with Hamas. And whilst they do this, they're buying their way for our country. They own more in our capital city than Prince Charles. So, and here he is taking, how many years ago was that? So we know what the relationship is. He's laundering money from Qatar. He's being handed money from Qatar. What do Qatar get for that? It's not for nothing, is it? You don't give someone £3 million in cash for nothing. That's just a minor little, probably a little biscuit of the corruption that's going on. But what do they get? They have bought our country. They bought the ports in our country. They bought the shopping centres in our capital city. They bought the Harrods. They bought everything. So, and they bought our politicians. You can see how they bought them, but the public are not willing to be bought. Do you know, mad story? There's a Conservative MP called Af Salamin. Look this story up, yeah? Af Salamin, put Af Salamin, Tommy Robinson. Now, this Conservative MP approached me during my days in the English Defence League. Yeah, he sat down. He contacted me, and I went to see him. He said, "I want to sit down and talk to you," and he offered me money. He said, "Tommy, you will never worry about money again." I said, "What do you want?" He said, "I'd like you to set up a demonstration in the area that he was his area, which was Dudley, and then let it all blow up, let everyone get like hyped for this big demonstration. Then I'll step in because he was a captain in the British Army for 10 years. So he spent a decade as a captain. He taught at Sandhurst. He taught Prince William and Prince Harry, at Sandhurst. He spoke the Queen's English better than the Queen, and he was a Muslim. So he's perfect for what they wanted, as in a perfect face of a Muslim who they can push forward and say, this is a perfect Muslim. So he approached me. My head started thinking. So and this was before I was doing journalism. This one I was just a street activist. So I said, okay, let me go away and think about that and set up another meeting. So I went away and then I set up another meeting with him and I wore a wire and a camera and I strapped it in. And when I sat down, he brought 2 other Muslims with him and they were gangsters, So that he sat down with these 2 Muslims and I recorded it all. And I said, lads, and I said, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, we're fun. We're just in. We want him in. I said, but you don't strike me as Conservatives. They said, no, we're Labour. I said, so if you're Labour, why are you supporting him getting in if he's Conservative? They said, we just want our man in. I said, okay. So from that, I recorded the whole thing and he tells me, Tommy, when there's a room of 200 people and David Cameron comes in, that was our then Prime Minister, he walks past everyone else and makes a beeline straight for me. I've already been offered my seat on the cabinet, what cabinet seat I want, and I don't have the view of just getting to be an MP, Tommy, or on the cabinet. I'm going all the way to the top. You are going to have an unshakable ally after this.
What year is this? What year is this?
Google it. It'll come up. Af Salamin. 2015.
Got it. I'm tracking.
So, sorry, I've been ill, man. 2015. So he sits down. He tells me all this. I get it all on camera. And then I go away. And a week before the election, I walk into the Daily Mail. Because I wasn't a journalist at this point. I was just a street activist. So I walked into the Daily Mail and I said, right, it was a week before the election. I said, here is your next Tory minister, cabinet minister. And he's offering me money and he's offering me friendship and partnership if I can fake a demonstration. And he's doing it with these people. So when you read that story, you wouldn't read that story and know it was me that gave them that story, because I had to sign an NDA and then they hammered me in the story, but I didn't care because I should have got recognition for this, because I prevented. So when this come out, then the Mail, and do you know what he said in this? He said Qatar, he has already secured funding from Qatar to end all the homelessness. This is in his area. So he said he had a full 8-year plan in his area that then in 8 years, that when you looked at his track record, he would have solved homelessness. He had millions and millions coming in investment from Qatar, all set up. So he had everything planned for his next 4 to 8 years, where he would regenerate the entire community of his area. So it just looks great for him by the time he gets to the point where he wants to go to the top. Then they do an investigation. Once I out this, the media then start looking into him. They find leaflets that he'd made like 3-4 years before he joined the military, talking about him supporting the Mujahideen taking over towns and cities in the UK to take over and have an Islamic caliphate in the UK. So basically he went undercover as a jihadist, spent 10 years, went to Sandhurst, then was a captain for 10 years in the British Army. There was about, at this point, to be a cabinet minister for our government until I outed him. And when he rang me, so when I was in the Daily Mail, I then get a phone call from him. And this is the problem. I get a phone call and he says, Tommy. I said, yeah. He goes, I've just had the Daily Mail on the phone. I said, yeah. He said, what's going on? I said, some things ain't for sale, Afsil. You cheeky bastard. So, but the problem is, most politicians are for sale. Yeah, we've just seen then. What do you think that bag of £3 million cash is about? People, even our royals are for sale. Looking at that. Yeah,
it's not a lot of money though. £3 million is not a lot of money to give up a country that was once UK. It was Great Britain, the Great Britain, right? Is it worth only £3 million? That's not a lot of money.
Only £3 million. Qatar has spent $1 billion. Qatar has spent $1 billion to do this. Yeah? Qatar have funded it all. So Qatar has spent $1 billion. Now, what they used to do is you used to be able to get people to convert. They'd spend street dower stalls, all these charities. Like my hometown has a shop in our town centre called Discover Islam, funded. It's a charity, and its purpose and its job is to convert the Luton population to Islam, is to go out and reach the non-Muslims and bring them in. This is all mainly comes back from Qatar and places like this. Yeah. Now they used to do that. Now they just get the influencers and convert like Sneeko, like take like people convert it. That's then powerful. So that then is worth hundreds of millions to them to pay because they get more people to convert. But with Prince Charles or with the country, that £3 million is one that they've had to declare. Who knows what's else going on? But I know that the money that they put into the country, Qatar, is huge, and the government bend over for them. Yes. Bend over for them whilst allowing them to, because they need them. Like now, France. I'm looking at what France is doing with Qatar, but they need their money. So they need their money, so they sort of turn a blind eye to the Islamization of our country and allow them to back it as well as Muslim Brotherhood. How are the Muslim Brotherhood not banned? How is this terrorist organisation not banned in our country? The danger of it. How? Even Hizb ut-Tahrir are now banned. But why weren't they banned for the last 2 decades? When they're banned in the United Arab Emirates and many Muslim countries, but in our country, they were allowed to just foster. Every single Islamic society in the country, in our universities, was Hizb ut-Tahrir for the last 2 decades. Now, how? That's a terrorist group. And you've allowed them to set up Islamic societies, bases in every university. And you wonder why, when you see the now level of anti-Semitism and the hatred of Jews coming out of our universities. And it's like, it's not hard. You've literally allowed a camp whose purpose is to do that, to have bases in every bloody university across the West, including the United States of America. It's mental. It's just mental when you look at it. And many of the Muslim countries and Muslim nations know how to deal with these groups. So they ban them and they come down on them like a ton of bricks. We don't ban them. We come down on anyone who talks against them with like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. You know, when you're saying Qatar, of course, the World Cup, when they were allegedly paying bribes for the World Cup to get there, and you've seen different numbers from 10, 25 million to 880 million, and then obviously they did what they did, and people went to the World Cup saying, what was this all about? This didn't even make it. Why would you do the World Cup in Qatar? So they are famous for allegedly putting money into things.
Wow, what a crazy interview. And we just want to share some statistics to back up what Tommy said. Between 2011 and 2015, Prince Charles allegedly accepted 3 separate donations totaling £3 million from Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim bin Jabr Al Thani, aka the former Prime Minister of Qatar, given in cash. Once in his suitcase and another time in carrier bags. Folks, this is in The Guardian. You can look it up. Another interesting little tidbit. One specific instance claimed the cash was delivered in a Fortnum and Mason carrier bag. Another was reportedly in a hold-all suitcase at Clarence House. Folks, this was reported on CNN. Okay, CNN reported this. Here's another one. These donations were allegedly handed over directly to Prince Charles, but then deposited into the Prince of Wales Charitable Fund. The palace says the correct governance, audits, and donor verifications were all followed correctly. Folks, this is not a joke. That was actually written up in the Daily Wire, as well as, let's see where else, The Guardian again, and Sky News all covered that story. By the way, in case Prince Charles at the time thought he was innocent, after the media scrutiny in 2022 when he was exposed, Clarence House said that Charles would no longer accept large cash donations like that. The Guardian quoted that little doozy of a quote there. So this is basically a full-on admission of guilt by Prince Charles at the time, of just admitting to taking cash and later admitting that he knew it was wrong. Just ridiculous. And just the final thing we'll say is, his public statements about Muslim-Christian relations, they don't seem to be rooted in reality. King Charles, formerly Prince Charles, has publicly spoken many times about the need for the West to respect and better understand Islam. And that may be true. But you know what else is true? There's a migrant crisis, and there's an Islamification happening, and British citizens don't feel safe. And so while there might be a need for the West to better understand Islam, there certainly is a much bigger need for Islam to better understand the West, especially if they're moving to the West. And, Tommy mentioned the example of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, which King Charles supports. Charles made speeches about understanding the Muslim world, interfaith respect, and warning against judging Islam by its extremes. And again, those things can technically be true, and I'm sure everyone would be for it, but when there's a migrant crisis and illegal immigration is causing a rise in crime, and it's mainly from Islamic and Islamification of the United Kingdom, and British citizens don't feel safe, and Tommy Robinson's cousin was attacked. That's another video we have coming up by a gang. Just outrageous. And so there seems to be a massive disconnect between King Charles and what the British citizen on the street is feeling. Thank the Lord for Tommy Robinson. That's all we can say. May God protect Tommy.